All right, everyone. South Africa is speeding ahead with plans to basically jump off a fiscal cliff. There was an appeal that had been in place for, I think, a couple of months now from certain farmers as well as AfriForum and other groups within South Africa to try to stop the government from stealing and redistributing, basically communism, parts of the land that's owned by white farmers in South Africa. Now, the whole premise of this being somehow acceptable because of reparations or because of I don't know, racial inclusion or something, or it's only a little bit of your land that's lying fallow, which is a farming practice, as I've explained. I'll get into that for anyone that didn't see my previous videos. The concept that that's acceptable because it's only a little expropriation. It's only a little bit of stealing. It's only a little bit of tyranny. Oh, and we changed the Constitution to allow ourselves to do it. That's crazy. The fact that there would be a country that's... The fact that every other country isn't universally condemning this, and you have, in fact, certain governments applauding it, like Theresa May's people, words can't really describe how dumb that is. If the average country were to do this, and they said, okay, this group of people within the country, this group, this Islamic enclave, this group of Jewish people, or this particular Christian group, too much land or too much wealth, we're going to take some of that away and give it to the underprivileged, as though the government can really give anything. Yeah, you need a lot of extra coffee for this one. Yeah, it's that desperate at that point. The fact that any other country would think that that's acceptable, that that's an okay thing to do in the modern age is pretty funny to me. It shows that maybe there's less political development that's gone on in South Africa than a lot of people want to give them credit for. Meanwhile, there was another story literally from I think earlier today, which is I believe yesterday South Africa time if I remember correctly. I'm terrible with time zones, trust me, even though I love geography. It's fucking sue me. They should just have it should be 10 o'clock everywhere in the world at the same time. It's just in some countries 10 o'clock means it's dawn or something. I saw this story and they're like, well, the Rand is now seen as basically the bellwether of emerging economies. Well, probably not after this happens. You see, the problem is, like, if I'm in another country and I want to invest somewhere, and I'm like, maybe I'll build in South Africa. Oh, wait, they could experience a racially tinged civil war at any given time. Yeah, maybe I'll go to India instead. Maybe I'll build in Brazil or something. Honestly, Brazil probably would be the place to. Brazil, maybe Turkey if Erdogan ever gets shoved out. Mexico. Hell, probably Mexico would be a better emerging economy at this point. There's the possibility now of increased stability with NATO, even if he is on the so-called far left. He's not universally so. He's more like a Marine Le Pen. I find it funny that people are not focusing on perhaps one of the most dumb things about the land expropriation, though. Like way beyond the ethical argument, way beyond, a lot of the things that are being said. Well, it's wrong, or it's racial, or something. Okay, granted, of course it's wrong, and of course it's a racist idea. I would think that the worst thing is that it shows that there is apparently nobody in the South African government that understands agriculture. With regards to, mechanized agriculture anyway. Of course, if you're doing small gardening or something like I do, a lot of composting, you put azomite in, companion planting and stuff. If you're not raising enormous numbers of crops with chemical fertilizer, not necessarily the most important thing you can do. But if you are, year after year, not rotating your crops, you're growing a monoculture or something, even with companion planting in some fields. Eventually you have two choices. Invest in a lot more fertilizer, invest in some sort of organic compounds, like composting, manure, whatever, to restore the soil. You can use biochar, by the way, for the same goal. Or you will have no choice but to leave some of that land fallow, sometimes for extended periods, because what happens is the nature creeps back in. The soil microbes are restored to, their original form, more or less. Carbon is added back to the soil. It's a low-cost way to restore the crop field. The reason why there are fallow fields is twofold. Number one, if you're producing too much of a certain crop, you can collapse the value and put the farms out of business. That's why the U.S. hyper-regulates the farming industry. No, we'll pay you just to leave this field empty. Or we'll pay you to raise this crop that we'll give you a net negative, but we'll subsidize it. You'll make proceeds on it. We'll sweeten the deal. We need more turnips, but we need less corn this year. Or something. They try to hyper-manage the prices because we're a massive agricultural exporter. Farmers will literally be paid to leave fields fallow, and they'll leave some of them fallow sometimes anyway. And usually what they'll do You put in a cover crop. You put in like alfalfa, that's a good one, clover, some of these other things, beans, legumes, they will restore nitrogen, they help with soil bacteria. You leave it fallow for a few years. If you don't do that, eventually the soil will become worthless. The problem is those farmers are still going to have to keep some of their land fallow, but now they've got less land. You are going to drop farming productivity in the nation of South Africa in a significant sense. It doesn't matter if it's only 5-10% of the total economy. It doesn't matter if it's not the main sector of the economy. You've got all sorts of problems with the South African economy. You've got high chronic unemployment. You've got a massive epidemic of disease, specifically AIDS, within the country that they're having difficulty combating. It's one of the last zones in the world where it's still truly a pandemic in every possible open, very transparent sense. You have problems with government corruption, and then you have morons running the government that don't understand farming. They also, you've got people in the country. You've got the ANC is like, hey, no. Malema and his people over there, they're scary. They want to steal all the white South Africans' land. We only want to take like 10-20% of it. We just want to give other people a chance to farm. Some of these people are going to inevitably not know anything about farming. You're going to give them their 10-acre plot, and they're going to be like, oh, I guess I dig the soil and put this in, and hey, is the government going to bring in an irrigation project? Because I don't have the money to spend on irrigating these crops. They're not growing. What the hell's wrong? I don't know. I never studied farming. Or some of them, watch. Some of these people will be mild academics. They'll be book learners. They'll have like an associate's degree in plant biology. The government will say, okay, you know about plants. You know how to grow cucumbers. You know how to grow carrots. And it's not going to work. It's going to drop agricultural productivity. And it's going to cause racial problems within the country. It already is. You're talking about, hey, we're going to take this land from you. What's going to happen if the farmers say, no, we're not going to give you the land? Are you going to kill them all? Oh, then you don't have any farming sector. Go ahead and put the unskilled, untrained people that you want to put in there into those farms and see what happens. Yeah, you'll raise a lot of dead crops. Hopefully you focus on things that are really easy to grow. Have you ever heard the saying, doesn't amount to a hill of beans? The idea is that the soil is so poor it won't even grow a legume, like it's just straight up sand. You can literally grow beans in a fucking jar of sand, dude. There are people in this world who have such a brown thumb they can't even do that. You tell them, hey, grow some pea plants. Grow a fucking stalk of corn. They can't do it. And unfortunately, I have a feeling a lot of the people that line up to receive this land are going to be like that. They're not going to be, they want to be a farmer, they know about it, or they've been like sharecropping or an understudy in a plant bio department or something. They're not going to have any skills whatsoever. They're just going to be random people that are loyal to the ANC. It's just a throwaway for them to be able to give 100,000 people, or so, little tracts of land that won't be productive, because then they'll vote ANC, and it'll stave off Malema, who wants to do the same thing. I'm surprised that the people there haven't already erected barricades and taken up arms, to tell the truth. If the government here were to tell me, hey, we're stealing a piece of your land, we're not even going to pay you for it. That's like the ultimate insult, but we've changed the Constitution so it's legal. I'd say, fuck you, I don't care. At that point, fuck the Constitution. In a lot of countries, the constitutions that they have mean little. Like here, it's more ironclad. You look at Venezuela, Maduro just ignores it. You look at South Africa, they're like, we'll just change it and steal your land that way. Because the majority of their Congress is black, so they think that it's a wonderful idea. Oh, yeah, we're going to take from this racial minority. They're literally... Can you imagine if here or anywhere in like Europe, the government would say, well, we're going to take land from this racial minority because they have too much money or too much wealth. Can you imagine? They'd be comparing it to the Holocaust. They'd say it's a precursor to genocide. They would condemn it. The country would be embargoed into non-existence and be declared a pariah. They wouldn't have any allies. Even the Turkmenistani government wouldn't want to partner with them. Kim Jong-un would condemn him, say, oh my goodness, you're a little bit out there for me. And I never did that. There are no racial minorities here in North Korea, so we don't have this problem. We just take land from everyone. Nobody's allowed to own anything. That's about all. Peace out.